inaugurado este foro parlamentario de inteligencia y seguridad. Con ustedes, la intervención del senador Cruz.
Hi, I'm Ted Cruz. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you this morning as you're gathered in Panama, a beautiful country and an important United States ally. Latin America is a critical region for American interests. The United States has indispensable allies in Latin America, where our relationships stretch back almost 200 years. We have deep economic and security ties. That's why it is so concerning that a left-wing movement has taken hold in the region, and 10 governments are now controlled by socialists. All of these governments, with only one exception, are also overtly and ideologically anti-American. They are committed to undermining American security. Unfortunately, the momentum of this left-wing movement is the result of the Biden administration's catastrophic foreign policies. Since President Biden has been in office, we've seen the forces of evil in Iran, Afghanistan, Russia, China, all gain strength, while our friends and allies in Israel and Ukraine and Hong Kong and Taiwan have felt abandoned and alone. This pattern has been replicated, and replicated far too often here in the Western Hemisphere. In Cuba, the Biden administration couldn't bring itself to come out and strongly support the Cuban people heroically marching for freedom, waving American flags. Administration officials failed to unequivocally support the protesters and failed to condemn the brutal thugs that the communist regime sent to assault and silence the Cuban citizens seeking freedom. Diaz-Canel is receiving law enforcement assistance from the Biden administration while brutally oppressing Cubans, demanding basic human rights and the rule of law. In Mexico, President López Obrador has overseen an acute erosion in the freedom of Mexican citizens, its institutions, and its media. Meanwhile, the Biden administration wouldn't even admit that President López Obrador's targeting of American companies and nationalization of energy in Mexico are bad things. In Colombia, the Biden administration went out of its way to undermine and to alienate the pro-American government of President Duque. President Biden denied Duque a call for the first 5 months of his administration, providing momentum to Duque's domestic enemies. Biden also removed the FARC, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, from the list of terrorist organizations. He dismantled terrorism sanctions on individual FARC members, even though FARC continues to pose an acute threat to Colombian security and American interests in the regions. These policies had their intended effect. They undermined the Duque government and they fueled left-wing movements, culminating in the election of Gustavo Petro. In Argentina, Fernández de Kirchner remains in office after being convicted of sacking the treasury during her presidency and covering up Iranian terrorism. In Brazil, Lula da Silva has pivoted the country away from the United States and instead towards our global rivals. In Nicaragua, the Ortega crime family continues to control the country. My home state of Texas has been and continues to be directly affected by the resulting chaos. We've seen deepening civil unrest and the breakdown of the rule of law across our southern border. The border crisis was directly caused by President Biden's policies and his political decisions, and it poses acute national security challenges and dangers to the United States. One of those dangers stems from the flow of Chinese fentanyl and other drugs across our southern border. Just last year, over 100,000 people died from drug overdoses in the United States. When our borders are open, it fuels this crisis, which provides a market for these drugs coming into our country from corrupt drug lords making billions of dollars in Latin America as a result of the Biden policies. The consequences have been catastrophic and devastating, and it's harmful to families all over the United States and all throughout Latin America. In the Senate, every day, I'm working to do everything I can to promote freedom, both at home and abroad. I want the United States to strengthen relationships with our allies and to pursue peace through strength. The relationship between the United States and Latin America is critical to the stabilization of the region and to the prosperity of its inhabitants. As you may know, my dad is from Cuba, and as a teenager, he fought in the Cuban Revolution. He was imprisoned and tortured by Batista's thugs. Then in 1957, my father fled Cuba and he came to the United States. He came to Texas. My dad came to America because he wanted to be free. He wanted to be left alone, to pursue an education, a career, a family. I believe that's what most people want, which is why we need to speak out against the rise of socialism and the corruption that is so profoundly harming families in Latin America. This forum and what you are doing here today is so important. People all over the world depend on free countries to promote freedom and security. Thank you for gathering to confront these challenges head on. God bless you.